Hey, what's up guys? Today we'll be talking about the 10.2-inch iPad and everything that's new with it, of which there are very few. For $80 more than the outgoing 2018 9.7-inch iPad, you get a marginally bigger display with the same image quality, 3 gigs of RAM up from 2. Probably the only real change here, you get a smart connector for keyboards, 7 more LTE bands on the cellular model, and it's a couple grams heavier. It still keeps the ancient Bluetooth 4.2 spec, 3-year-old A10 chip, same potato 1 megapixel selfie camera and 8 megapixel rear camera, first gen Touch ID, and that's mostly things I haven't talked about yet. However, I'll still go through this thing for 2019 and give you 2 better iPad recommendations afterwards. I think one of the biggest criticisms of the previous 9.7-inch iPad was the fact that it didn't have a laminated display, so there was a very noticeable gap between the surface of the glass and the actual LCD panel. Didn't really look that great, and that hasn't really changed here. Still uses the first-gen Apple Pencil, so there aren't any magnets to attach to the iPad, and you need to charge it by having it stick out of the Lightning port. That was a huge convenience feature with the iPad Pros with the second generation Apple Pencil. But the actual display itself is really good. It's bright, same 500 nits as before, it's vibrant, excellent contrast, and you don't really notice the lack of lamination until you look at it on an angle. The speakers also remain unchanged for the most part. You have a set of stereo speakers on the bottom. iPad Pros still are the only ones with dual stereo speakers on the top and bottom. They're loud, clean, detailed. Bass is a little bit lacking, and I guess the only thing I'd actually criticize is the fact that the grills aim slightly backwards. Like, if you listen to these with the back of the iPad facing towards you, they sound much louder and more detailed. The iPad Pros have flat edges, so the audio fires directly to the sides rather than to the rear. The internals remain the same as last year. It's running the A10 chip with 3 gigs of RAM and either 32 or 128 gigs of storage. It's a 3-year-old chip at this point, which in terms of technology is getting fairly old, especially when you think about how each chip gets about 5 to 6 years of software updates. This thing's getting a little bit old. It's now also running iPad OS 13, which is a custom version of iOS for the iPad with features that make it a little bit closer to a desktop operating system. Stuff like a desktop browser, you can run 2 instances of some apps at the same time, like 2 instances of Microsoft Word. You've got the new home screen with a permanent widget pane. You can use it as an external touchscreen for your Mac running macOS Catalina with Apple Pencil support for artists, a full download manager, support for external drives and network shares, dark mode. There's a lot of neat stuff that makes it just a little bit more usable as your primary device for students and anyone looking to do basic tasks. I can't tell you how good it is as my primary device because I do programming, which kinda requires a desktop operating system, but it's getting better, that's for sure. You can expect to get the same battery life as last year, so around 9 hours or around 6 to 7 hours if you max out the brightness all day. So last year's iPad was quite easy to recommend, but this is literally the exact same tablet, just an extra gig of RAM with the same price tag. So for this reason, I recommend buying last year's 2018 9.7-inch iPad for $250 new now that it's dropped in price, or you can get the iPad Air with the A12 processor, better display, and double the base storage for like $140 more. You could also consider the iPad mini, but that's a different size device. And between the 2018 iPad and the iPad Air, it's far enough in price that it really just comes down to your budget. Okay, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you found it helpful, and I will see you in the next video.